thank you for joining me for our discussion of The Power of Less by Leo Babauta. First, I will like to get started with just letting you know my thoughts of the book. I think it's a great all-encompassing book, and I feel that it covers every aspect that could relate to everyone's lives. So there are certain parts in here that I will emphasize more than others just because they related more to me. There are a few key things that I took from this book, and overall I'm happy that I read the book, and I feel that I grew as a person reading it. So what I'd like to do is I will just go through each chapter and touch on the important points that really stood out to me. And before I get started, also, if you've read the book or you read the book with me or you're going to read the book, I'd love to hear your take on the book or your point of view. So leave a comment below or post a video response. So chapter 1, what really stood out to me was quality over quantity. Producing high quantity is great for the short term, but quality is what's going to give you high impact and a lasting impression. And it starts with principle 1. By setting limitations, we must choose the essential. So in everything you do, you learn to set limitations. Principle 2. By choosing the essential, we create great impact with minimal resources. Always choose the essential to maximize your time and energy. And lastly, it gives you questions to think about for yourself. And here are the questions that it asks you to answer. Which areas of my life are overwhelming? What would I like to simplify? In addition to the tasks I need to accomplish in different areas, do I want to limit the number of possessions I have, what information I receive, or what responsibilities I have? And if I'm going to stress anything about this book, if there are questions or parts of the book that provoke thought, write it down or think about your answers, or just give it a thought before you proceed, because with this book it builds on each other, so you're going to want to really think things through and not just zoom through the book, if you really, in my opinion, if you really want to get a lot. Chapter 2, pick something that overwhelms you, set a limit, test it out for a week, adjust as needed, and continue to adjust until it's a habit. You should push yourself to reduce down to a life without limits is taking a cup of red dye and pouring it into the ocean and watching the color dilute into nothingness. Limited focus is putting that same cup of dye into a gallon of water. Limitless is weak. Learn to focus yourself with limits and you'll increase your strength. This really hit home for me because I've always, if you watch the movie Limitless, I'm obsessed with that. And doing so many things and multitasking and being able to do more than one thing at a time. So just reading this, it really made sense, especially with the cup of dye. Just really put things into perspective for me. You don't need to revamp your entire life at once. That's a sure recipe for failure. Focus on one change at a time until it becomes part of your routine and you're comfortable with the limit. So what I like about that is it's not telling you, hey, we're going to go through and revamp your whole life and guess what, tomorrow you're a new person. No, it talks about starting one step at a time. I don't know if we're going to get there or not, but I'll cover it now. It talks about forming a new habit and picking one habit a day and doing it for an entire month or 30 days until it is a habit, and then moving on to something else. So I actually just started doing that, and I can remember I put that later in the book, so I will wait. Chapter 3, choosing the essential and simplifying. Choosing the essential is the key to simplifying. When you're choosing the essential, there are a series of questions, so I'll briefly just go over what the questions are. What are your values? What are your goals? What do you love? What is important to you? What has the biggest impact? What is the most long-term impact? Needs versus wants. Eliminate the non-essential, continue editing process. Chapter 4, simple focus. Focus on the task at hand instead of multitasking and you'll be more productive. Principle 4, focus is your most important tool in becoming more effective. A great thing that it comes to here is to start focusing on negative thoughts and turning them into positive. To be aware of my negative thoughts and to replace them with positive thoughts. Learn to focus on the positive. think about how great you feel. So I notice this all the time. Sometimes I'll start getting these negative thoughts going in my head, and sometimes I just let them go because you're unaware of it, but sometimes I say, wait a second, I need to turn that around into a positive thought. So I've been practicing more than ever now, is trying to be more aware of my thoughts. Chapter 5, create new habits and the power of less challenge. Create new habits is the secret to making lasting change that will actually improve your life. So here's where I talked about 30-day habits. So he actually challenges you. Focus on one habit at a time, 1 month at a time, so that you'll be able to focus all your energy on creating that one habit. Power of less challenge. A 30-day challenge that has proven very effective in forming habits. So he gives you 5 steps. Select a habit for the challenge, write down your plan, post your goal publicly, report on your progress daily, and celebrate your new habit. And why it works: commitment, accountability, encouragement, inspiration. So what I've been doing is every day I have this huge calendar, and my habit that I'm trying to form is to journal, but not just the journal itself, is to, before I start journaling, is to remember yesterday's victories. So I write on the top yesterday's victories, and I write down all the little victories I had, because it's so easy to start your day thinking, gosh, I'm so behind, or I have so much to do, or how am I going to get all this done? But just to take a minute and think about, wow, I accomplished A, B, C, and D yesterday. I feel great about those. Write them down, remember them, just pushes you and motivates you, like, you know what? I can accomplish E, F, G, H. And then he has rules for creating habits. To briefly touch on the rules, you can only do one habit at a time, because more than one habit, it's easy to start failing. Start easy. If it's your first one, go easy on yourself. Don't do anything too difficult, because you want to show yourself that you can succeed. Choose something measurable, be consistent, report daily, and keep a positive attitude. Chapter 6, start small. Start small is simply a way to ensure the greatest likelihood of success for the rest of the changes. Principle 6, start new habits in small increments to ensure success. Now we move on to part 2, and part 2 is in practice. So it gives you real life examples on how to accomplish what was described in the principles beforehand. So now we're on 7, simple goals and projects. Tackling a goal takes energy and focus. And so if you have a goal, and let's say it's more of a longer term goal, this chapter really goes into breaking them down. You have a huge goal, so break it down into sub goals so that they're more shorter term goals that all add up to the big goal, because it's really easy to lose your focus and motivation when you have a goal that's so far away. Now we're on chapter 8, simple tasks. And some of these chapters, they were a great read, but they just didn't necessarily stick out to me, so there's nothing I'm really going to highlight besides telling you the chapter. Chapter 9, simple time management. And this was great for me because I'm all about time management. I love to plan, as you guys know, and it talks about flow. Flow is a state of mind that occurs when you lose yourself in a task and the world around you disappears. You lose track of time. How you get into flow is you choose a task you're passionate about. If it's something you don't care about, you won't find flow. Choose a task that's challenging, but not too challenging. If it's too difficult, you'll have a hard time getting into flow. If it's too easy, you'll get bored. Eliminate distractions and immerse yourself in the task. I bet you have felt that when you start a task and you're just so into it, you completely lose track of time, and then you finish the task and you lost the day. That's the greatest feeling in the world, and I love when I get into flow and I'm editing videos because I just get a video done and edited and it's out. Next chapter, chapter 10, simple email. Chapter 11, simple internet. Chapter 12, simple filing. Chapter 13, simple commitments. In this chapter, what really stood out to me was inventory commitments. How do they add value? List your top 5 and cut out the non-essential. So you want to reduce your commitments in your life. Each time you cut a commitment, it may give you a feeling of guilt because others want you to keep that commitment. but it's also a huge relief not having to keep that commitment each day or week or month. It frees up a lot of your time, and while others may be disappointed, you have to keep what's important to you in mind, not what's important to everyone else. That really hit home with me recently. I just made a huge decision in my life, and at first I felt a little heartbroken, and others around me felt really bad too, but it was what was important in my life. And each day, I climbed a little bit out of the hole, and now I'm happier than ever. And I look back, and that was probably the best decision that I ever made. Chapter 14, simple daily routine. Power of having simple routines, especially in the morning and evening. Having these routines can supercharge your day while simultaneously creating a sense of calm and sanity in your life. So it talks about creating a simple morning and evening routine. Remember to keep your routine simple. More than 6 things will probably be too rushed, or you won't have enough time for all of them. So here it lists out different examples of what your morning routine could be. So the ones that I highlighted for myself was have coffee or tea, read, eat breakfast, journal, choose your 3 most important tasks for the day, and review your goals. And he mentions that checking email isn't on there because this is a time when you shouldn't be doing all of that stuff that can just consume you, and email can just eat you alive, and you can just be stuck in it for hours. So save that. Get through your morning routine first. Next, it goes on to the evening routine, and the ones that really stuck out to me were eat dinner, shower, exercise, review your day, plan for the next day, and spend time with your partner. Again, email is not in there. And then it goes over to establishing these routines, focus on them, make them rewarding, log your progress. Chapter 15, declutter your space. Chapter 16, slow down. Our bodies and minds were made for a slower paced life. Learn to move at a slower pace and you will be happier, and just as importantly, you'll become more effective and productive. You won't learn to do more in less time, but you'll learn to do things better and to do the right things. The simple combination can have a wondrous impact on your effectiveness and how much you accomplish. So a great example in this book is, if you can focus on the important tasks and projects and keep your focus on those tasks, you'll accomplish important things. In contrast, someone can work frantically for 12 hours a day doing as many tasks as possible and yet not accomplish anything important. So I'm sure that is either you or you know someone like that. So chapter 17 is simple health and fitness. So if you're healthy, you have greater energy and productivity. It talks about the difficulties of fitness. The one that really stood out to me was social situations such as office parties, family get-togethers, nights out with friends, anniversary dinners, and the like often sabotage an otherwise healthy diet. That is me. Always have that problem. And then it has 3 steps to creating a healthy lifestyle, and I am so counting my lucky stars because I am already doing number 1 and 2. I exercise regularly, and I do focus on eating healthy. So my next step is going to be making short-term goals and adjustments. So for me, it's eating healthier, not letting those social outings affect my diet. And remember, it's just like brushing your teeth. Do it for your health, do it regularly, and just do it. Failure is not as important as starting again after you fail and sticking with it for the long term. I really like that because there have been times when I've spent a whole weekend eating pizza and burgers and I feel terrible on Monday, and instead of just saying, oh, well, forget about it, I'm just going to keep eating unhealthy, I just get back on and start. And then it goes on to setting short-term goals, and I really like this because I have found that I am very much motivated by short-term goals. Long-term goals and myself just don't match. Real lasting change only happens over a long period of time, months and years. Set a short-term goal or 2 each month. Maybe set a goal each week. And then we have 30 exercise motivations where it lists out different ways to motivate yourself. I think that's great. Check it out. And on the last chapter, we have chapter 18, motivation. This is actually my favorite chapter, and I will definitely be coming back to read this chapter again. If you can stick with the goal long enough, you'll get there. It just takes patience and motivation. Sticking with something for the long term is the true path to anything worthwhile. There's only so long that you can go on trying to motivate yourself to do something you don't like to do, something you don't want to do. So if you are doing something that you absolutely hate and you're finding motivation, but you go back to hating it and you're contemplating, is this what I want? Please soul search and decide if you want this. And after your soul searching, if you've decided, you know what, this isn't the essential for me, drop it. Because that is what I did, what I mentioned before. And while it hurt at first, and trust me, it is going to hurt, I am happier now than I have ever been. A great motivator when you have so much energy at the beginning of a program and want to go all out is to hold yourself back. I do that. I have all this steam in the beginning, I want to just do everything, and then it just crashes. Don't let yourself do everything you want to do. Only let yourself do 50 to 75% and what you want to do. And plan out a course of action where you slowly increase over time. That seriously speaks to me. I just want to plaster that everywhere. And then just start. Instead of thinking about how hard it is or how long it will take, tell yourself that you just have to start. And recognize negative self-talk. And we actually went over this in Confidence Code. Replace the negative thought with a positive thought. So we've already heard that now twice. So overall, I think it was a great read, but I do think that I pulled a lot of great information from this book, and I think you will too. So let me know what you guys think.